Animal Farm-Controlled Revolt, Decoding Dystopia. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Decoding Dystopia, Literature as Prophecy series. In this installment, we turn to George Orwell's other masterpiece, Animal Farm. Unlike 1984, which explores overt totalitarianism and mind control, Animal Farm reveals the mechanics of controlled revolution, the subtle ways that power subverts uprisings from within. This isn't a story about pigs and barns. It's a blueprint, a framework for how movements are co-opted, how promises are inverted, and how rebellion can be engineered to serve the very forces it intended to resist. Orwell's genius wasn't simply in predicting totalitarianism, it was in decoding the theater of resistance itself. In this breakdown, we will follow the arc of Animal Farm as a strategic case study in political manipulation, mapping its events directly onto modern-day patterns in social uprisings, political campaigns, identity movements, and technological revolutions. This is not satire. This is system analysis. Animal Farm begins with an authentic rebellion. The animals rise against their human oppressors, specifically Mr. Jones, the negligent farmer, and seize the farm for themselves. The premise? All animals are equal. They write commandments, establish shared goals, and proclaim that the era of exploitation is over. But as Orwell quickly reveals, the revolution doesn't abolish hierarchy. It redistributes it. Pigs take charge. They rationalize their leadership. They revise the commandments. And soon, the revolution begins to mirror the regime it replaced. This is the first principle of controlled revolution: substitution, not abolition. The faces change. The structure doesn't. One ruling class is replaced by another. But because the new rulers once identified as victims, they're granted moral immunity. This is the origin of weaponized victimhood. It makes questioning authority taboo, because the new authority wears the mask of the oppressed. In real-world terms, we've seen this pattern repeatedly. Grassroots movements are often founded on authentic injustice, but as momentum builds, centralized leadership forms, messaging shifts, the focus narrows, demands are rebranded, funding increases, alliances with political elites emerge. Before long, the movement's original goal, freedom, is exchanged for access, and access becomes the new control mechanism. Napoleon, the pig who eventually crowns himself as leader, doesn't take power all at once. He accumulates it incrementally, through committees, through slogans, through narrative control. He creates enemies, like Snowball, and uses them to justify purges. He weaponizes fear to solidify obedience. This mirrors modern techniques of manufactured crisis. Scapegoats are created to unite the masses, emergency is declared, dissent becomes treason, and consolidation of power is framed as security. The animal commandments are altered quietly. Language is manipulated. No animal shall sleep in a bed becomes no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. The difference seems small, but it represents the core of Orwellian deception: semantic drift. If you can modify definitions, you don't need to change laws. You just change what laws mean. In our era, we see this in the redefinition of terms like health, justice, violence, democracy. If everything is subject to rebranding, nothing is safe from reversal. The pig squealer represents propaganda. His role is not governance, it's justification. He explains why food rations are cut, why rules change, why things that were once bad are now good. He invokes science. He claims to have data. He warns of external threats. And he tells the animals they're better off, even when they know they're starving. This is the modern function of PR, media, and institutional messaging. Reality is less important than perception. If people believe they're free, they won't resist, even if the cage is shrinking. What Animal Farm ultimately shows is not just the betrayal of revolution, but its inversion. By the end of the book, the pigs are indistinguishable from the humans they overthrew. The animals peer through the windows and can no longer tell who is oppressor and who is comrade. This is the endgame of controlled revolution: total assimilation. Not of power, but of identity. The system absorbs its opposition. It makes resistance indistinct from control. This is not fiction. This is a blueprint for cultural capture. In today's world, we see revolutions sold back to us as products. Counterculture becomes fashion. Dissent becomes branding. Resistance becomes entertainment. The system doesn't fear your rebellion. It funds it, films it, and sells you the t-shirt. This is not liberation. It's commodified obedience. So how do you recognize when your revolution has been hijacked? When your leaders are no longer elected, but appointed by media. When your movement receives corporate sponsorships. When your slogans are trademarked. When dissent within your group is punished more harshly than opposition from outside. When your goals become more symbolic than actionable. These are the warning signs. And Orwell laid them out, not in theory, but in parable. Animal Farm teaches us that revolutions are most vulnerable at their peak. That betrayal comes not from the outside, but from those who claim to represent you. That power doesn't have to kill you. It just has to speak for you. And that the most dangerous lie is the one that begins with, "We're doing this for your good." If you want to build a revolution that cannot be captured, you must build one that cannot be bought. One that doesn't need a mascot. One that doesn't rely on slogans. One that recognizes the difference between change and substitution. Because otherwise, you're not resisting the system. you're rehearsing its next act. This has been Animal Farm, Controlled Revolution, and the Illusion of Uprising. In the next installment of the Decoding Dystopia series, we'll explore Brave New World, pleasure as pacification. Until then, question the revolution, test the motives, and remember, if the pigs start walking on two legs, it's time to walk away from the farm. Now, let's take the blueprint of Animal Farm and map it more directly onto contemporary reality. Consider digital activism. Much like the animals painting slogans on the barn, online movements begin with pure intent, awareness, justice, mobilization. But soon, these platforms become regulated zones. Fact-checkers emerge, trending topics are curated, algorithms boost specific narratives, censorship is reframed as safety. Like squealer-twisting facts, today's digital gatekeepers explain that memory-holding dissent is for our protection. In this modern barnyard, there are influencers instead of pigs. Some claim to be dissidents while monetizing rebellion. Their platforms are funded by the very institutions they critique. Their outrage is real, but it's managed. They speak loudly, but within boundaries. These new Napoleons don't raise flags, they raise brand deals. They gather followers not for change, but for metrics. When your revolution is optimized for engagement, it is no longer a threat, it is a product. Let's look at how corporate structures mimic the pig's transformation. At first, companies claim to support movements. They change logos, issue statements, make symbolic gestures. But the structure doesn't change. Workers are still underpaid. Exploitation continues. Inequality deepens. Yet, because the banner has changed, the public applauds. As Orwell warned, the pigs start wearing clothes, walking upright, and sleeping in beds. And no one sees the danger, because they've been conditioned to view surface changes as progress. Orwell also captures how fear is used to suppress thought. Napoleon trains dogs to silence opposition. Today, those dogs are cancel mobs, bot swarms, and policy teams. Fear is not used to produce obedience through violence, but through erasure. The threat is being excluded, unfollowed, demonetized, or unpersoned. The chilling effect is the same. You stop thinking aloud, then you stop thinking at all. Even the illusion of democracy is explored in Animal Farm. Decisions are supposedly made by all animals, but in practice, only the pigs decide. This is seen today in hollow participatory systems, elections with no real choice, town halls with no real power, surveys that gather data but never change outcomes. Participation becomes a psychological tool. If you believe you had a say, you're less likely to rebel, even when nothing changes. The sheep in Animal Farm chant slogans without overstanding them. This is perhaps Orwell's most biting critique, the role of the unthinking participant. In every age, the masses are needed, not to govern, but to repeat, to amplify, to drown out nuance. They are given mantras, hashtags, and icons, not to empower them, but to direct them. This mirrors our time perfectly. Complex debates are reduced to binary hashtags. Entire ideologies are compressed into one-word labels. People are rewarded not for insight, but for mimicry. This is how you control a population without guns. You don't train them to obey, you train them to perform. The power of Animal Farm is that it teaches us how revolutions are rehearsed, staged, and ultimately absorbed. The animals are not stupid. They are trusting. That's the real tragedy. They believe in the cause, they believe in justice, and that belief is used against them. The new regime uses the language of the old fight, but the heart is gone, the spirit is gone. All that remains is the spectacle. And so, to truly honor Orwell's warning, we must stop treating Animal Farm as a parable of the past. It is a diagnosis of the present. Every time a system claims to liberate you, ask who benefits. Every time a voice claims to speak for you, ask who funds them. Every time a revolution is packaged, ask what it's selling. Because if you don't ask, if you simply chant, follow, retweet, and vote, you become the sheep. And the sheep, though innocent, make tyranny possible. Now ask yourself, where are the modern commandments being rewritten? Not carved in stone on a barn wall, but quietly edited in real time through app updates, platform policies, media headlines. What you were allowed to say 5 years ago may now be grounds for expulsion. This isn't organic change. It's doctrinal revision disguised as progress. When Orwell wrote about commandment alteration, it wasn't about policy. It was about reality distortion. A culture that cannot hold consistent values cannot resist manipulation. When the rules are fluid and enforced selectively, no one is safe, but everyone pretends they are. This is the illusion of order that covers the machinery of opportunism. We're also seeing the rise of synthetic unity, movements that declare solidarity while enforcing uniformity. In Animal Farm, the sheep shout, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Eventually, they shift to 4 legs good, 2 legs better. Their chant changes without resistance. Their loyalty isn't to truth, it's to conformity. In modern movements, if your support isn't expressed in exactly the right way, you're condemned. Loyalty becomes performance. Compassion becomes code. The other major theme Orwell surfaces is the eradication of memory. The animals forget. The commandments fade. The original revolution becomes legend, and then myth. History is no longer contested. It is lost. This is what happens when no one archives, questions, or records independently. This is why digital history is so fragile, and why personal record-keeping, independent journalism, and offline archives matter. A society that does not remember is easy to rule. Its people cannot compare past to present. They cannot detect contradictions. They cannot measure betrayal. They live only in the now, emotionally reactive, narratively malleable, directionally blind. To resist this, we need to practice historical literacy. Not state-approved timelines, but first-hand accounts, preserved texts, original footage, and most importantly, oral memory, family stories, community truths, conversations that don't trend but endure. This is the seed of uncaptured culture. Finally, let's not overlook the animal most forgotten. Boxer, the workhorse, loyal, strong, silent. His motto, I will work harder. Boxer is the perfect citizen, and because of that, he is expendable. When he collapses, he is sold to the glue factory, not honored, not remembered, just disposed. This is the most brutal lesson of the book. Systems don't love their hardest workers. They use them. And once depleted, discard them. In today's world, that's your burned-out essential worker, your overextended parent, your exploited activist, your silenced whistleblower. Reward comes not to those who serve longest, but to those who serve loudest and safest. Boxer's story is a warning. Loyalty without discernment is fatal. Question even those who lead in your name, especially those. And remember, no matter how noble the flag, it can still be used to blindfold you. Orwell wrote Animal Farm not just to expose tyranny, but to explain how it recruits you. Through hope, through solidarity, through dreams of justice. The only way to protect those dreams is to ask, who's writing the slogans? Who's feeding the sheep? Who's erasing the past? Because if you don't ask, you might wake up chanting the very lines that pave your cage. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11x published author, and what you just watched was only a taste of what's inside the Truth series, where we go all the way down the rabbit hole. If you're the kind of person who's always asking bigger questions, who knows there's more to this world than what we've been told, then this is your invitation to the series that was built for you. Inside the Truth series, you'll get full access to 6 mind-blowing sub-series designed to wake up your highest intelligence and decode the matrix we live in. 1. Locate the truth. Learn how to actually research, not just what to search, but how to verify, cross-reference, read declassified files, and protect your own mind from weaponized misinformation. This is truth-seeking, decoded. 2. The Mandela effect. Are we shifting timelines? Why do so many people remember a different past? We break down the most bizarre, undeniable examples of reality glitches and what they tell us about consciousness and control. 3. Law is magic. Law is not what you think it is. From word spells to maritime law and hidden contracts, we uncover how legal systems use language like a wand and how to stop being tricked by fine print that binds you without consent. 4. Entertainment or ritual. The Hollywood and music industries are not just for entertainment. From Super Bowl rituals to Grammy stage symbolism, we decode what's really being shown, who it serves, and why mass consciousness is the target. 5. Decoding dystopia. Ever wondered why dystopian fiction feels prophetic? In this subseries, we decode popular films and books, Hunger Games, 1984, Black Mirror, to reveal the hidden blueprints and predictive programming behind the plot. 6. MK Ultra plus mind control programs. This one gets deep. From real MK Ultra documents to modern symbolism in media, we expose how mind control operates in plain sight and how to free yourself from manipulation you didn't even know was happening. And that's just the beginning. If this resonated with you, click the links below and join us inside the Full Truth series, because the more you know, the harder you are to control. This is your awakening. We don't just ask questions, we find answers. Let's go all the way down the rabbit hole together.